So the last thing that we will talk about today is field effect transistors. This is actually a completely different topic from what we've been discussing so far. These are just a different type of transistors, and a lot of the things that we did with our usual NPN bipolar junction transistors, you can do similar things with field effect transistors. So far, we didn't discuss this at all, and in this course, it's an entirely different field of study, and in principle you can make a lot of circuits with them, but in this course we will not look at it in that much detail. I'll just try and give you a very brief kind of feeling of what these transistors are, how they work, and mostly we will just gloss over this. We will just say things are in some sense similar to what we do with the previous BJT transistors that you have seen. If you want to look at these topics in more detail, you can look at Malvino chapters 11, 12, or you can look at Eggleston chapter 5. So you will find some more details over there, but definitely more than what we are going to be doing over here. The field effect transistors are of different types. You have junction field effect transistors, you have metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistors, you have ferromagnetic field effect transistors, and so on. So lots of different kinds. We are going to be concentrating on the junction field effect transistors, or the JFETs. So what does this transistor look like? Here you have some N-type semiconductor, and then you just put some P-type parts over here. So these are P-types, but the basic substrate over here is N-type. And just like in the BJTs, the bipolar junction transistors, we had three terminals, collector, base, and emitter. Similarly, over here we have drain, gate, and source. So this is called an, so because the basic structure is N, this is called an N, can you see? No. This is called an N channel JFET. How do we bias this circuit? So the GS terminal, or the GS junction, is always reverse biased. So your circuit will look something like this. So let's call this VGG. So gate, source, drain. Source, so I should put it like this. Let's call this VDD. So this is the kind of biasing that you would expect for an N-channel JFET. Now the thing with, so when we were looking at the bipolar junction transistors before, we discussed that the conduction that is happening within the transistor is happening because of both majority current carriers and minority current carriers. So whatever effects that we see in the bipolar junction transistor, the BJT, it happens because of the conduction of both electrons and holes. That's why it's called bipolar junction transistor, because both signs, both kinds of charge carriers, majority and minority, are involved in that process. In a field effect transistor, all of the conduction is happening only because of the only of one type, the majority current carriers. Therefore, these are often called unipolar junction transistors. So FETs are unipolar junction transistors as opposed to what we had seen before, the NPN type bipolar junction transistors. What is the point of using uh, this kind of device? Turns out that the input impedance is very high. It is of the order of mega ohms, which is what makes this kind of transistor very attractive for use. So as far as actual practical uses are concerned, very often FETs are preferred over BJTs for applications. And so let's, right. How do we denote these FETs in a circuit? So the symbol is like this. So if you have an N channel JFET, the symbol is like this. So this is the drain, this is the source, this is the gate. You put an inward arrow, and this line is always slightly shifted down towards the source, just to be able to tell which side is drain and which side is the source. If you have a P channel JFET, then your symbol looks like this. Only the arrow is pointing the other way. So this is a P channel JFET. Now if we go back and look at this biasing circuit, you will notice, so first of all, the voltage between the gate and the source, if I call that VGS, if VG, so this is always negative because that's the way we are biasing it. Now if VGS is much less than 0, if it's very negative, then, well, why don't you just draw that circuit again? Drain, gate, source. And this is what I'm calling VGS, the potential between the gate and the source. Now if VGS is very negative, then the depletion layers between the P and the N, they expand, and at some point this gets pinched off. So then no current can flow between the drain and the source. You have switched off all the drain source current. So if this happens, then ID becomes 0, and we say that we have gone into cutoff. But if VGS is 0, then these depletion layers are the smallest, and so ID becomes maximum. So this is a device which is basically controlled by what you're doing at the gate. Depending on how much potential you put at the gate, you will either allow or disallow current to pass through. So this gives you a lot of control on the device. You can control what's happening at the gate and control how much current flows through. So let's see some of the characteristics So on the x-axis, let's plot the drain source voltage. On the y-axis, we'll plot the drain current. This kind of plot is called the drain curve. And this looks like this. So when VGS is 0, you get a curve like this. Then let's say if I change the value of VGS, let's say minus 1 volt. Remember, VGS is always going to be negative. Then minus 2, minus 3, and so on. And of course, as we expect, when VGS reaches some kind of limiting value, which we are calling VGS off, then we say that we have reached cutoff. So for that particular value of VGS, your drain current will just be 0. So this is the cutoff. This flat region is called the active region. We can also plot a different kind of characteristic. We can plot ID as a function of VGS. And I'm plotting it like this because VGS is going to be negative always. This kind of plot is called the transconductance curve. So this is for a given value of VDS, drain source voltage. The graph of ID versus VGS looks like this, where this maximum value of the current when VGS is 0 is called IDSS, and the value of VGS when ID becomes 0 is called VGS off. So the equation of this line is ID is given by IDSS times 1 minus VGS over VGS of the whole square. And this formula or this curve on this graph is specific to a given JFET. So it is not going to depend on what is happening in the rest of the circuit. This characteristic will remain fixed irrespective of what operation is happening, irrespective of what kind of circuit you have plugged your transistor into. This characteristic will always be the same. So let's check what kind of biasing we do for the JFET. Same as with the BJT. In order for this transistor to work properly, you have to first make sure that it is correctly biased. Only then will it work. So just like in the previous transistor case, we had things like fixed base bias, voltage divider bias, collector feedback bias, emitter bias, etc. So also in this case, you can have lots of different kinds of biasing methods. So let's just look at a couple of them. First is the fixed base bias. This circuit looks like this. So this is the circuit for the fixed base bias. Basically, I'm applying a fixed voltage at the gate. Why is that voltage negative? Because gate source junction must always be reverse biased. So source is at 0 because source is grounded, and gate source voltage has to be negative. Therefore, I put minus VGG over there. What does the transconductance curve for this look like? Well, transconductance curve will always look the same. Something like this. But now on top of this, I have made sure that my VGS is constant because of biasing. So the VGS equal to constant line looks something like this. VGS equals constant, which is minus VGG in our case. So this point over here is minus VGG. So the intersection of this VGS equal to constant line and the transconductance curve, the intersection of these two is the Q point for our circuit. We've already seen for BJTs how to get the Q point. In this particular case, for the fixed base bias where VGS is constant, this is the Q point. You can call this VGS equal to VGG. This line you can call it the load line of this particular setting for this circuit. You can also have the voltage divider bias. And this may be familiar to you now because you've seen it a few times. Just the names that are different. So over here, instead of VCC, this is VDD. This is drain source gate. So this is the drain resistance. This is the source resistance. This is just R1 and R2 from your voltage divider. So once again, if I want to find what is the voltage at the gate, voltage at the gate is given by VDD R2 over R1 plus R2. This is the voltage that is biasing your gate. And remember that you always want your gate source junction to be negatively biased, reverse biased. So you can write an equation now, which is, so this is VG, and so if you apply Kirchhoff's voltage law over here, then what you get is VG is VGS plus the drain current flowing through RS. So VDD R2 over R1 plus R2 is GS plus ID RX. So this is like your load line equation for this circuit. How much time do we have? Okay. So let's stop here for now. And in the next lecture, we'll do a little bit more about these JFET circuits, just a brief discussion, and then we'll move on to our next topic.